up, everybody? Welcome to the IAG Thursday thing. This thing we do every Thursday, even if we're not on time. But guess what? This time we are. We're back from PRI. We're doing our typical 4 in the afternoon Eastern Standard Time live recording of our podcast in our Discord. And yeah, we're having a good time. We're a week out from Christmas, a little less, and that's pretty exciting. The dust has finally settled from Black Friday, even though we still have some people who are trying to get rowdy. And yeah, we had a pretty good time at PRI. Saw some really some interesting new product. But today we're going to talk about one particular platform, Subaru's newest WRX platform, the VB. And the reason we're going to talk about the VB is because today we released a closed deck block for it. And that's big doings. So we definitely want to chat about that. Normally I would be joined by my partner in crime, Warranty, but he's doing adult stuff again. But I was really lucky to manage to catch Graham between, tuning this, that, and the other thing. And honestly, he's probably a little better for this conversation anyway. So we're joined today. My co-host is going to be Graham from Boosted Performance Tuning. What's up, Graham?
Not much, man. How you doing?
Good. How'd PRI? How was that overall for you?
Honestly, it was great. I had a couple things I was going to try to accomplish and ended up accomplishing more. Had some great conversations. I was there a lot. I was doing a lot of Paragon Performance C8 Corvette stuff. We've been trying to get some progress made on that. So we did a lot of that, but this had some good boosted conversations. Talked to Mtron. It was good, and also seemed to avoid the PRI flu, so that was good.
Yeah, my wife was sick as all hell here. But yeah, didn't I don't know how I managed to get through that and not get sick. So we did all right. Um Producer Jordan was also there with us at PRI, and he's joining us again. What up, Jordan? How you doing?
Good. Going back home in my truck with goodies from Micro Center.
Yeah. So Jordan, we had a whole lot of conversations about sim racing and stuff when we were at PRI, and Micro Center's got a banging deal right now. And honestly, Graham, you should scroll back in the chat and see it. It is a ridiculous deal on a rig right now. And yeah, he went and grabbed that. So he's on his way home from Micro Center with a really badass rig right now.
Oh, like a
Hell
sim
yeah.
racing rig?
Yeah, like it's full. It's a proper, um, I would say mid to high end sim rig for honestly low end pricing.
The Moza
Uh,
R5.
no, no, he ended up doing a what was the brand sim? You
It was
guys,
SimLab. There's what was the actual wheel? Hold on.
I'm digging it up. SimLab
Yeah,
GT.
yeah.
So either way, it's a really good higher torque rating. Yeah, fairly high torque rating. Direct drive wheel with a really nice wheel itself. So the wheelbase is nice with some really damn nice pedals, and it also comes with a rig, extrude aluminum rig. The only thing it really doesn't have that you need is a seat, which you can grab a seat off anything. It was such a dumb deal.
Yeah, you practically got the chassis or like the aluminum for like free.
Yeah,
Is it still going on?
hell yeah,
Still
1,400
going
bucks.
on. I just bought it. I just bought it today. Yeah.
No affiliation with. Yeah, I'm telling you, go
No,
buy that.
no.
Graham. I don't know if we want to like edit this out later or not, but it's a stupid good deal. So
We'll have
check
to
that.
talk offline. Yeah, I need to get
Yeah.
that.
It's really good. All right. Either way, so we're done yakking about sim rigs. And then Randy, who I'm not sure is on right now or not, but Randy made the thumbnail. He had to make that real quick because we were going to do the AVCS talk this week, but then everybody's schedule kind of fell apart, and we wanted to take a little time and make sure we made something that people could go back and listen to. So next week we're going to do AVCS. So if you're listening to this now, and you are really into getting some hardcore tech. I wouldn't exactly go that hardcore, but it's going to be really, really informative next week's. I'm hoping that's one of our evergreen episodes that lasts for a really long time. Maybe that's our Christmas gift to you. I don't know. But yeah, that's the crew for this week. So yeah, that's kind of what's up. Today we as an IAG released our closed deck block for the VB. Okay, so an FA24. I'm actually going to pull this up right now, so I'm not talking out my butt. FA24 built engine. Now, one of the things that was killing us, absolutely killing us for building these, really wasn't like us getting pistons or rods or us having enough time to develop it. It was getting case halves and cranks from Subaru. It was awful. We finally got enough stock. We've been trying to build stock for literally a year or more on these, but we finally got enough stock to where we were like, okay, we can release this, and we're not going to have a bunch of angry customers at us. That's the last thing we wanted, was just a whole pile of angry customers. So it's called the IAG 1000, and this is for the 22 plus WRX. I don't know if it fits the Ascent or anything else. I'm pretty sure it will, with not much, having to change anything over, but it does not fit the BRZ yet, so please don't ask. This is kind of set up like our 950 block, so it's got 14 mil head studs, and the first time on an FA, we're doing Firelock gaskets, which is really sick too. So this is a really serious block for really serious boost. So that really brings in the conversation here, and this is why I want to have Graham on. The VB, this platform is not playing around. Drastically different than the reception I think we got from the VA, and I think some of that is due to timing of certain things, but different than the what we got with the VA. What have been your thoughts so far, Graham, on like VBs you've tuned?
Well,
Just
yeah.
turbo and stuff like that.
So yeah, we have a number of guys that are, kind of in our inner testing circle that are pushing the limits. For just Joe Blow off the street, I don't want to give him something that's gonna, cook the head gaskets, or take any risks there. But for some of our guys that we've been working with for a while that we trust, I've got some of these cars in the mid 400s, completely unopened engines. These guys, they do all have 6-speed STI transmissions by that point, because it's very easy to break the gears in the original transmission. But if you're careful with some of the low end power and peak cylinder pressures, these things will make some jam. And we're talking with catalytic converters and everything too.
Yeah, I
So
mean, we're talking, post green speed.
and we've got guys that want to get these things up into the higher power ASAP. We're working with Nostrum, just released their injectors and pump that give us a lot more fuel capacity. I've been testing those with some people before they were released. That's pretty awesome. We're gonna have to see something to probably add port injection. That's going to be the challenge. That's always the challenge with direct injection, is that even with upgraded injectors, you run out of fuel so fast when you have to spray it all within a certain window of time in the cylinder. But there's guys that are ready to party, and Cobb's doing their part. Cobb showed me one exciting thing that we know flex fuel's coming. We saw that at PRI. It's very, very close. But at the same time, they've also removed one of the annoying load limits, so that paves the way for higher horsepower.
What do you mean by the load limit? Explain that.
Limit. Okay, so there is a hard-coded load limit, and just to make it really simple, load is essentially when the ECU measures the airflow, it turns that into a load number, and that's how it basically runs the timing, runs the fuel targets, and knows how much fuel to deliver. And a lot of times those load values get capped just simply based on like the data type in the coding behind the scenes. They use a data type that isn't big enough to hold a high enough number. So the hard-coded load is a number of 3.3, which we can run into pretty fast. Do you remember the old days with the the 2002 to 2005 cars when you remember the term scaling the MAF or half MAF or half scale. Does that ring any bells?
Yeah, so back in the day, what would happen is you would basically max out the mass airflow sensor and what it was measuring in the ECU. So we used to do this thing, they'd call it half MAF or like you said, scaling the MAF or whatever. And what you would have to do is now again, I'm not a tuner. My understanding is that it would essentially just change the way that it read that map, and you'd have to do this also if you change the size of the mass airflow sensor housing. So wherever the mass
Yeah.
airflow sensor was sitting, you'd have to change that up too. But
Yeah, there was basically there was a hard number limit of MAF that could be typed into the tune. So you couldn't say it was more than like 300 or whatever.
yeah,
So what you had to do was you had to basically, you could divide it in half or you could divide it by 20%, but you'd basically lie and say there was 20%, it was 20% lower value for the airflow, and then you'd say that your fueling is 20% higher to make up for it. And then you'd have to run around to all your tables with load axes and scale them down by 20% so that your timing wasn't too high, or things like that. So it was a pain in the ass. To some small degree, we've had to do that. We had to do it on the VA WRX until Cobb raised limits on that, and we've been having to do it a little bit on the VBWRX. Not to the point of like cutting it in half, but like on my bigger power tunes, I do have to kind of fudge the scaling by about 10% to leave some room to not bump into that load limit. If we bump that load limit, the car will go into a limp mode and cut power. So that would be kind of annoying to try to tune higher power until that's removed, and that limit's going to be effectively, raised or doubled. So, something like 900 horsepower, maybe 850 is where the new load limit is going to be going forward. So we got plenty of room on a stock ECU to get wild.
that's actually really sick because
Yep.
we were having conversations when we were at PRI last week with Mtron and Link and a lot of these guys, and there is stuff coming down the pipe quickly, okay,
Yep.
of reasonably affordable ways to tune these on standalones, but being able to stay with that stock ECU, and as long as I think one of the things that hurt a lot of the older cars, when the whole green speed thing happened, is it from the ground up, people weren't thinking about develop it with green speed. So
Yep.
everybody's trying to convert back. Well, these cars are being developed with green speed. So all of the parts that are out there have that in mind. And I think it's going to work really well. Adam also popped in and said our blocks will fit the Ascent and the Outback too, if anybody was wondering. Then we're going to get into it with we have long blocks coming soon with Calford cams, so we have cam options coming really soon too.
Nice.
So yeah, either way, what's really cool is to see that, I think a lot of people discount the insanity you can still do with Cobb, and it's where the options are there. Easy bolt on power, and now we're going to be able to make hopefully fairly easy larger power. I don't know if you knew this, but last week we released the VB fuel pumps and injectors, and they're a pretty massive step up. You gain quite a bit more with the Nostrum. We worked with Nostrum on that whole thing. They're a pretty large step up from what you would get out of the FA with an upgraded pump and injector.
Yep.
You're getting a lot more jam out of these. The injectors are different, so they don't fit directly over. But from a sorry VA guys, you can't just grab these injectors and shove them in your car. It's not a thing. But it's what's cool to see, and I think people were struggling with is, and this is kind of what I was trying to get at. When the VA released, it was released with the VA STI. Okay. So the downside is you had this brand new platform that wasn't the premier engine or in the premier car. Okay. Now there was a lot of advantages and we are all super interested in it. And it was really cool because it made really easy power, but then you were kind of stuck. And I mean, I've personally told this to, a ton of people. If you ever want to make anything more than 400 wheel, sell the damn thing and get an STI. Um, when you were talking about the VA, so the 15 to 21
Mhm.
FA20, and it isn't that the FA20 was a bad platform. It's just the aftermarket had like 30 years of EJ development, and it was kind of easier. So a lot of times the guys who are modding FAs, these were cars that a lot of people just kind of ended up in. That are you there I'm not going to say you didn't have some nut jobs who are going after it, and we have fully supported a lot of those nut jobs, and I want to continue to support those nut jobs. Um, but the VB is different. There's not an EJ it has to compete with anymore. This is the new platform. And and not only that, they made some massive improvements um from the VA to the VB engine, so the FA20 to the FA24, not just displacement, but the heads are better. There's a lot.
Bigger
Uh
turbo.
yep, bigger turbo. I mean,
They make they make
it is a larger
power.
car.
Yeah, they make power a lot easier, and they can make a lot of it.
And I mean,
So
even let's be real, the FA20 wasn't bad compared to the EJ 25 at that time. You could make like upper 300s really easy when you'd have to kill an EJ to do that. You know what I
that's
mean?
true.
It
I
wasn't
guess
that it
so.
was
It's
bad. It's
you
just
know
this
what?
is
You know
better.
what it is? I think it's three things. There's no more STI. You nailed that.
Yep.
But then they do make the power easy. They make similar power on the top end as an FA20, but they make so much more low end power and torque. So now you've got it. You're exceeding the STI power band everywhere with this new engine.
Yes.
So I think
Um,
that's a big thing.
yep. It's unreal the amount of torque that you're making with these things, and some of that's just coming straight from displacement, but I mean, it's the engine itself is just it's rowdy. It really works well. I it really works well in the new like Outback and the Ascent too, like
Yep.
because it does make that low end grunt.
It
And
still makes me sad that Subaru didn't retain the STI and pair this engine with a little bit bigger turbo, some upgraded parts, bigger intercooler. They could have made a really nasty, call it 360 out of the box to the wheels car that would be super reliable.
dude, I'm telling you
They
what,
missed an opportunity.
everybody's gonna be real sad. I have a pretty firm belief people are gonna be real sad once they see the results of a very basic setup with just the cam added to it. Like I'm
Yep.
very interested to see what a stock turbo will do with a cam. Like we add the Kelford to it, and
Yep.
I really think it's going to you because on the stock turbo and the stock engine, it does the typical Subaru thing and it falls up top. You know what I mean? I think it's going to carry it's going to carry that torque
Yeah.
better. I think we're going to see.
Interesting to see. I think cam might help. I think we still might see some choking on the turbo that would be traced
Oh,
back to back
definitely.
pressure, but we'll
Yeah.
see.
Yep. And even like small turbo upgrades, I think are going to be absolutely rowdy.
That's the thing. If
You
you
get that hot side opened up, it's going to scream.
stick a G3900 on here with cam, it's going to be insane.
It's going to be nuts, dude.
Yeah.
Uh, and not only that, like the car itself is nice. What kind of there are a lot of guys you actually said something earlier. There are a lot of guys out there this is their first Subaru, okay? And a lot of them don't realize how Lego-y Subarus are even if we're crossing platforms and stuff from before. The amount of people who are crying for a like a gear set or something for this 5+1 speed is really really wild. I wish they would have made I wish they would have had an STI so there was a proper STI 6 speed in it.
Hmm.
I see it every time we post up something for an FA24. Everybody's or even when we post stuff for like EJ gear sets and stuff, STI gear sets. They're like, "Hey, are you guys ever gonna make one for these?" And it doesn't make any sense.
The gear set won't solve the problem.
No,
If the gears if the case is too small and not strong enough and can flex apart, you're still going to strip those fancy gears. That it's not going to help. The gears aren't the weakest point. It's more than
no.
that. So
There's so much more to it, and it's
yeah,
not just the gear like you said, but if you actually
so,
like look at the main shaft
yeah.
compared to like an STI. It's like
Yeah.
twice the size on an STI.
People
So
don't realize it from an
they're
architecture perspective. The STI transmission and the WX transmission are night and day different. You know, clamshell versus
yeah.
drop in case. Like they're just so different. It's not even on the same planet. So
Yep.
yeah,
Drastically different animals. So like those who are looking for an upgrade, I would like to maybe look into this is the stuff you need to install an STI 6-speed kit, if that makes sense. That probably wouldn't be too hard for us to put together as a kit. And maybe look into selling something like that. Maybe even
Subaru
set it
just
up.
needs to make it like a dealer add-on option when you order the
That,
car. Just
that's our
fucking
job.
just
I,
order the damn thing with an STI trans and pay the extra $4,000 then,
I wish, dude. You know how many they would sell and they could sell the cheapy 6-speed.
Dude,
You know what I mean?
everybody would check that box. No, yeah, make it three options. The existing 6-speed, the STI race 6-speed, and a STI DCCD 6-speed, and you'd sell them all.
No, dude, I'm telling you, you'll never get them to do that. But if they would just
I
sell
know
it
it.
with the old, what it needs is the old Spec B 6-speed. It's got an open front diff, it's got no DCCD, so it'd be real cheap to make, but it's got the right gearing for it. Because one thing that it's really good for driving around in town, but these things don't have a crazy high red line from the factory. I think they're only 6. You really don't want to take them. They're still running that same oil pump that the FAs have had
Yep.
previously. You really don't want to go much past factory red line. They don't play nice. That might be an aftermarket thing in the future, but currently as it sits, it's not. And I'd like to it really works good with the gearing that's in it now. I'd like to see the Spec B gearing. That would be the ultimate. If you were really trying to put the ultimate trans together for that, I would get the Spec B gearing.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, I think that would work out really well.
Yep, I agree.
Yep. And then yeah, that oh man, that setup would be perfect. You really don't need anything else. I got to be real. But I think the other thing that kind of holds or it that might kind of be a deterrent here is I think it's questionable, though people are starting to come around to it, but it's initial questionable styling. With the fender flares and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think are going to hurt the numbers of these getting sold. I will say I'm willing to believe a very high percentage of them will get modified, but you're not going to see a ton of them just ripping around. And I will say, like, I think highly modified GDSTIs and bug eyes are one of the reasons that GRs sold so well, because people saw them and then years later when they could buy a car bought one of those. They bought an STI. And I think the same thing. Maybe they saw they saw your car, you know what I mean? Your sedan.
Yeah.
They saw it ripping around on track and they ended up buying a VA because of it, and I don't I'd like to say I'd like to say that the VA is selling VBs, but I don't know. And I also think it's going to have a problem, the VB selling whatever maybe the VC is, you know what I mean?
Yeah, could be.
Yeah, if I've got a fear there, I think that's it. But I will say, like I said, the type of people who are buying these things, um, they're about it. These guys are not playing around. Like the Facebook groups and stuff. They're going nuts. These guys are going hard and they are hungry for more big power stuff. They're treating these a lot more like an Audi RS3 kind of approach versus
Or
your
or
typical
also kind of like an Evo 10.
kind of like an Evo 10. That's a very
Yeah.
good way of looking at it. Yeah, you
Yeah.
look at the Evo 10 guys, they went fairly there was a lot of 500 horsepower Evo 10s. There weren't a ton of like 800 plus, but there are a lot of 500 horsepower Evo 10s.
Yeah. This is kind of that car for Subaru, and is how I'm seeing it be
Yeah.
treated.
Um I got people in the chat screaming about if Subaru would release the wagon in the States. My thing is always going to be if Subaru would release or stick this engine inside of a Crosstrek, you couldn't keep them on the lot. But what do I know? Yeah. So again, let's wrapping back around to this. With these new blocks, now we have the ability to see what these platforms are going to do. Are you pretty excited to, get these in some of these cars and really turn it up?
Well, yeah, like I was telling you, I'd kind of like to get one for our GC project.
Yeah. I
I,
I
I, I
would I
I don't
really
want to. I'm not
love
quite ready for a VBWX in my life, but I could use an interesting engine to test in that car.
so there's an interesting prospect that I don't think people really thought about. I saw like one or two like FA20 swaps, but it was so much easier to stick an EJ into like a non-turbo GC or
Yep.
something like that. Now, a VB swap starts making a lot more sense. You know who it really makes sense for is the guys who are doing like stage rally. Tell me that that's not the perfect engine with a stock
It's
turbo for
it's
stage.
incredibly responsive. Yeah, it has the low end power they really want.
I mean, it's gonna have all that low end and mid. It's just tons of torque, and it makes a really fat amount of low end torque.
Yep.
I think there's actually a case to be made if people were trying
And
to
they're
build.
shifting early too.
Yep. Adam's like the turbo sits a little low for stage rally. Make a header. We'll figure it out. Or put it. You need to put a bomb proof, an absolute bomb proof skid plate on it. That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys know some of Adam's background, but do you remember like some of the first uh, X Games Rallycross stuff? And there were a few cars that you could definitely tell were a little more. They weren't exactly Vermont sports car built cars.
Yeah.
Yeah, Adam was involved with one of those pretty hardcore, so he understands what it takes to throw a car over a giant jump and not blow it to pieces. So yeah, I don't know. I think the future's really bright. One of the bright spots, and I don't know these guys personally, and I think I want to have them on the podcast sometime. Was TPG? They did some God's work with theirs. Did you see they ran a? They were the first 10-second VB, but also the first 9-second. They
Yep.
ran 988 at 142. That is
Yeah.
out, man.
That's moving. That's impressive. Yeah.
Yeah, that is scooting, but they didn't do it just once though. They did it 4 times back to back. It just
Yeah.
yeah, so I think this thing's actually gonna be fairly reliable too. Especially once we as a community figure out as the aftermarket figures out how to put port injection on these things, I think it's
Yeah.
gonna go absolutely nuts. So let's talk about that a little bit because that also affects the VA guys too, because a lot of that stuff's gonna translate over. I
Yep.
know we've had a couple of conversations with a few different companies, Link being a big one, Mtron. We talked to a bunch of these guys. What is the current status of standalones? Something that's a little closer to a plug and play to add port injection.
Well, the easiest way to do, well, yeah, I mean, the easiest way to do it all seamlessly right now is the same way that TPG is doing it, which is with a Motec. So
Yeah,
Motec already has a complete plug and play solution for that engine for controlling it, and it controls the direct injection and it controls port injection. So that's the easy button. It's the expensive button, but that's the easy button right now.
that's what exists.
Yep.
I know there was some conversations. Link had some new product coming
Yeah.
here in the not too distant
So,
future that should be
so
able to power the direct injectors. I
yep.
don't know if they're going to have it all wrapped up into one box or they're going to separate it, but that should be coming fairly
So
soon.
there's three things that I can think of right now, and Adam just mentioned one of them. I'll jump to that at the end, since we're talking about standalones
Yeah,
first.
yeah.
But both Link and Mtron are they both understand that direct injection control is the future, and they have to build for it. The challenge is when we talk to Mtron is putting direct injector drivers on a board with the rest of the ECU and making sure it's going to be as reliable as you want it to be is extremely difficult. Motec has done it, but it's very, very expensive, hence the price tag of the M142. The way that Mtron and Link are both approaching it is to offshore the direct injection to a secondary controller. That way they can keep their core ECU price, or they can use an existing ECU, no problem, and then talk over CAN bus to a direct injection specific box that can handle all the currents and the loads and driving the injectors. So that's what
a lot of people don't understand that. Like that stuff causes like a legitimate amount of heat, and
yeah.
needs
Direct injector drivers are very high current, and current translates to heat. So you're trying to run that on a ECU, they get hot. So that's why you notice that have you ever noticed that a lot of ECUs for the cars that we deal with have moved from under the floorboard to under the hood?
Yes.
It's so they can stay cooled off. That's a big part of it. So because they have that direct injection control on board. Anyway, same reason why the GR86 ECU moved, because they put that on the GR86 ECU. On the FT86 ECU, it's a separate controller that, guess where it lives? Under the hood. So anyway, that's what's coming down the road for those two ECUs. So hopefully either one of those ECUs can be options to control an FA24 in the future. And then, as Adam said, Ed from EQ Tuning, he's developing a port injection add-on system that's designed to work with the stock ECU. So
nice.
That's going to be similar, I'm assuming, similar in design to the IBR system for the FA20, where basically it taps into one of the direct injector plugs, and it watches the pulse width of like cylinder one direct injector, and it knows how long that pulse width is, and it knows when it's time to start turning on the port injectors. So that's a very simple, kind of somewhat rudimentary way of doing it. You do have to batch fire the injectors, meaning that you're firing all 4 port injectors together at the same time because you don't know where the engine is in its cycle. But with port injection, you can get away with that. The fuel hangs out on the back of the valve until it's turned to suck in. And at high loads and high RPMs, that's not a big deal. So we might see something like that. Maybe EQ Tuning is going to be doing something different, where they're actually going to tap into the CAN bus and watch the RPM and maybe get an idea of where the engine's at and do it sequentially. I don't know. What's that?
That's how IBR's setup worked, right? It would
IBR, it watches a direct injector, and it batch fires the port injectors when it gets to a certain point that it needs them.
I mean, it was a simple solution that I think some people have used to some degree of success. But
we tuned some cars with it, and it worked well.
I would have liked to see that be a little more thought out, but it would, for what it existed, and especially for the market that existed for it, I think it was about as good as it was going to get. That's the difference I'm trying to get at with the VB customers. I think there is enough psychopaths, there are enough axe murderers in this community that I think they're going to get it done, and I think we're going to start seeing big power VB stuff. And then, so once we start seeing that, then you start hearing the people crying for, can I swap this into my older car? I really want to see you stick an FA24 in your GC. I think it'd be a grid life street class weapon.
It very well could be. And that's kind of what we're thinking. We haven't been able to figure out what to do with it. So it's just kind of parked waiting for its turn while, we finish the 11 STI. But that would be a really good use case for it. I just haven't been able to control it yet in the way that I'd want to. I don't want to have to deal with a stock ECU in there. I want to be able to do something that can control it. So
I mean, I think though the easiest way to make that make sense if you're swapping into older cars is going to be some form of standalone. And you could do a custom wiring harness and everything, and you could sit down with Sam or something and build something out with like a Motec or whatever. But I think some crazier option, or some more sensible options, I should say, are coming down the line that are going to
we're gonna my love for Mtron, I'm going to want to test their new product when it comes out. So be a good place to do that.
So, real quick, we can chat about that. Did you talk to them any more about the Shadow? Speaking of,
we did. I went back over there and talked to some more. The Shadow is still going to be a really good ECU to bring the cost down even lower than the SL series for people that are, very, just kind of taking it more easy at the track. It's
Yeah.
it's missing the G sensor, which can be helpful for DC/CD control, or if you need the traction control. It doesn't have some of the high level motorsports capability in that sense. You have to have an external barometric pressure sensor. There's some
Yep.
little details like that, but for the most part, it's still a pretty good price point. If you were shopping and your budget's pretty tight, it's a pretty good price point to still get you into incredible Mtron control, and 95% of the functionality is still there. For
Here's kind of my thought. If that were to be reasonably priced, is Mtron looking to develop some sort of direct injection driver too?
Yeah, I remember I thought I just
Oh
made
yeah.
that clear a little bit earlier, but yes, they're developing a DI controller as well.
So if in that situation, it probably wouldn't be too hard for somebody like Sam to make some form of kit that it would use a direct injection driver and everything, and he would make the wiring for it. If I'm throwing Sam out there, but there's a million different people who could do this, aka iWire, who has recently stated that they're stepping down from doing swap stuff. But I think this might be a little more in line with something they'd be interested in. Um, but if you would be able to maybe bring that engine over with some form of wiring, that would be sick, dude. I'm just thinking about this now in FA24 in that, and then run it all off of like the Mtron suite, their newer reasonably priced ECU, and then their direct injection driver.
Yep, that's the idea. So we'll see what shakes out.
Yeah, that would be sick. It's still, yeah, I can't see any way you'd be able to do that with a fairly OEM harness, but
No, it would have to be a custom built harness for
it'd have
sure.
to be custom front to back because there's no way you could merge that and make it make sense. It would be hell. But yeah, dude, I'm actually stoked for the future to seeing what crazy stuff can come from FAs. It's that engine is drastically improved from a base level from the EJ and even the FA20, but the amount of torque that thing produces down low, oh god, it's seriously like a rallycross engine straight from the factory.
Yep.
So we went to PRI, man. We did PRI. Did you see anything there at PRI that really stuck out at you? That was
Hmm.
really like, man, that's it. Link's new stuff coming is really exciting. Them talking about dropping some new stuff for plug and play for like the FA20s and the FA24. I think that was pretty sick. But
Okay. Well, yeah. Are you talking FA24 DIT?
DIT.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Well, that'd be interesting. So yeah, because they're sounds like they're a little ahead of Mtron. Mtron has to get the DI box developed. I think Link has theirs, or it's very close. So
it's really close is what they were going to try to release that as a kit.
okay.
um, that it's going to be, we had a whole conversation. They were like, they were actually kind of like poking at me about it. Do you think people would buy this as a kit? And I'm like, yeah, you just, as long as it's still plug and play, even though it's two pieces, nobody's going to
Well,
care. Like
yeah,
they're
and you're
all,
going to need it. I mean, it's not even an optional thing. You have to control the DI somehow. So
well, they were seriously considering rethinking their entire board to add it to one unit. And I'm like, just tell them they got to put it here. Maybe build a bracket. You know what I mean? If it's got to be put
yeah,
somewhere else, I don't think that would be that bad. I don't think anybody'd care. I
I
don't.
guess it does make it a little harder when you're unplugging an ECU that already does the DI and you're plugging
Yeah.
in something else that doesn't. You're going to have to make a harness and adapter.
Yep.
If they're willing to make the harness and the adapter to make it still pretty plug and play, I guess that could work. If they're going to rely on other people to make that harness, that might be a challenge.
Yep. That
So I
that
guess
would be
that's a
hard.
good question.
That would be one of those things that they'd have to jump in bed with somebody, I think.
Yeah, sadly, I didn't make it over to them. I swung by on Friday, but they were super packed over there, and I had to keep moving. And then I didn't make it back on Saturday. So
So yeah, like Friday morning, that was my first stop because I wanted to go have a conversation with them for Bailey's sake. The stuff that you and Bailey figured out about fuel pumpy things. I
yep.
wanted to chat with them about that. And see if we couldn't work something out for Bailey. I think that's gonna work out really good. That should be a really great relationship, I think. Um yeah. So I got Serapin Wolf. Q1, Q4, how close does it sound? Is possible just make it and does it need to be on board? They didn't really give me a time frame. If I were to make a guess, just because I'm getting really good at speaking um like aftermarket manufacturees these days. I would say probably Q2, Q3 of next year we'd have it either be released or a little more solid. They were they're pretty confident, at least at Link, of being able to make it work. They just don't know what form factor it would be in. So
Gotcha.
yeah. And then Mtron, obviously, they just dropped the Shadow 8, and I think they're trying to figure they've got a lot of, um, irons in the oven right now trying to figure that out. So they've got a lot of stuff going on over there. I don't know, did they sound, because I didn't get a chance to talk to Mtron for shit,
Yeah,
which
I
sucks.
got more of like a like maybe 6 months type deal.
Yeah, which again, I think in about 6 months, which is probably about right, Q2, Q3, um, I think you're going to see an explosion of aftermarket engine management options. And I think the first person to get to market is going to kill it. And we got EQT. Um, if they can outrun everybody, are probably going to make a mint. So yeah, I'm interested to see what all that looks like. Um, yeah, other than that, PRI, I didn't really nothing
I mean,
really stuck out to me.
so Link has their DI driver 4 on their website.
Yeah,
Um, like it exists, it's out there. That I guess what I'm not I'd have to look into is do they can it be configured for Subaru injectors, or do they have to figure it out? Because controlling a port injector, there's only really two main types of port injector, and for all intents and purposes, there's really only one type of port injector that exists this day and age. And turning it on is a simple matter of giving it a 12 volts on one side and grounding the other.
yep.
Turning on a DI injector and controlling it is a whole nother ball game. There's ramp up currents, there's hold currents, there's hold times. It's a very delicate thing, and every DI injector is different. You can't just hook them up and treat them all the same. So I guess I'll be curious to see, like, they'll have to get this thing working with each type of injector they want to support, and then make it a drop down, because expecting users to drop in DI settings and currents and all that is just not going to be very practical.
No, and that's not going to be something that like you're going to be able to, ask a dude next to you, yeah, as
Yeah.
he like you're trying to figure out a setup. Hey man, what injectors? Well, at the bottom of and it isn't going to be like that. You can kind of get away with that sort of nonsense on a port injection car. Like you could even almost go in blind on a port injection car and kind of figure it out.
Yeah.
But you definitely can't do that on a DI car. That's gonna be rough.
Like here, I'm reading the specs right now, and like the max boost voltage of this controller that it can output is 65 volts.
Yeah.
That's a lot of volts. That's why this
Crazy.
stuff doesn't work well
Yeah.
inside of an ECU.
Yeah, that's not little pins.
No, it's not little pins, it's not little amounts of heat
Yeah.
and stuff like that. It's a whole different thing.
Yeah. Jeremy in the chat is saying it already works on the FA20 WRX. They had a startup map listed. So they already had a base map listed for that. Which is,
Okay.
is interesting, but I'm interested to see if they have anything for the FA24, because the injector is different. I mean, Nostrum figured that out too. The injector is very different. But it actually worked out for the better, because Nostrum managed to get quite a bit more flow out of it, which is cool.
Yeah. They don't have the FA20 listed currently as a profile they support, but maybe their information on their website's out of date. So I haven't seen it. So man, maybe somebody has been doing it, but I haven't seen anybody mention using Link on these yet, and I haven't seen official support roll out, but I'm very curious. And if anybody asks about it, I'll definitely dig into it. But like we don't get a lot of requests for FA20 stuff anymore, like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
All my time and attention's on the FA24 for the guys reaching out to us anyway.
The FA20 stuff, I think, is kind of settled a bit. I'm not gonna lie, I actually I sell, so our IAG 600 is basically a rod piston engine. I sell
Yep.
a decent amount of IAG 600, especially short blocks, and that's just because the OEM engine will fail and they want something more reliable. I sell a decent amount of those, and lately I've done a lot more BRZ stuff.
Mhm.
Uh, been doing a bunch of built FA20 engines for BRZ guys, but I don't have the psychopaths we're not really doing, our 800s that often anymore. That crowd has, changed up what their thought process was or everything, but that has not gone away at all with the FA24. Those guys are going hard, and dude, I can't wait to help those dudes out. We're gonna have a lot of fun with that platform, I think. It's nice to see Subaru doing cool shit again.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree.
even though sometimes we complain and all, we really aren't in that bad of a space right now. Um, Trying to think if there's anything else I want to cover on the FA. Where are we at? I don't think so. I think we did pretty good on that. I think we need to have a conversation about something that happened at PR. Well, actually didn't happen at PRI. The conversation started at PRI and changed yesterday. Yesterday, I think it was, or was it the day before?
It was the
And
day before. The day
it was the
before.
day before. So this directly affects you and I, since we are now both uh, Grid Life Street Mod champions. um, they are allowing sequential transmissions as long as they go inside of an OEM case.
So
Inside
a sequential internals that fit in an OEM case is the specifics.
So no, here I guarantee this argument and their rationale came from the argument. I didn't really have an argument, but the conversation I had with Adam. So the conversation went like this. The way it said, the way the rule was written, it basically said transmission internals, you could add a gear set and do whatever you want inside of an OEM case. And their theory behind that was, different gear sets, stuff like that. You want to do a dog box, that would be fine. That was what they were going for. But then I had a conversation with Adam. I'm like, I can put a sequential gear set inside of my OEM case. That's how almost all Subaru sequentials are done. And like that blew his mind. He's like, I never even thought about that. I'm like, and I'm just being real here. If we were to do that, the way your rule book is written, it says no aftermarket sequential gearboxes. This is not a gearbox. Okay. This is a gear set. So anything pertaining thereon out for sequential gearbox does not apply to what I have done to this transmission. The glossary terms and any of it, none of it applies because this is a gear set. And he
What if,
agreed.
what if we're here's a question too that one of my tech Alex, I was telling him about this too, and
Sure.
he brought up some interesting words and terms.
Yeah.
The wording in there says non-OEM gear replacement. What about non-OEM shafts? What about non-OEM dogs?
All of
The,
that all of
the
that is legal, and it has been legal for a very long time.
What about the shifting mechanism? Is it okay to change that? It doesn't
It
say, right?
doesn't stay. And I think that's what he wanted to clarify, because I told him, if you give me a green light on this, I'm probably going to do it. And we're up against, you got to think what we're dealing with here. There is no DCT box or something for Subarus.
Well, no, I agree. We're on the same page that like like our platform needs that to be competitive
So
at the
let
top.
me lay it out for somebody who's coming in here from, a different, maybe this is the first time they're hearing our podcast. We both run in Grid Life Street Modified, and this is supposed to be highly modified street tire cars. Okay. And what we're up against is a lot of highly modified new Toyota Supras. And there's also options for rear wheel drive cars to put in stuff like a BMW 8HP or a BMW DCT or something like that. Or there's these cars that come with them already, and we're still trying to row gears here. Um, the it's making it real hard to compete against some of this newer technology, and they don't really want to run us out. And I'm pretty hell bent on staying in street modified. I think it's the greatest class ever, and I would have found a way even if this wouldn't have happened. But this is huge because it allows us to do something within our transmission that puts us in line with that. there's still advantages to an 8 HP or a DCT even over a sequential, especially when it comes to maintenance and long-term use. But this is going to be pretty giant for one particular reason, especially from my point of view, is it's going to open up my left foot to use for braking now.
Yep.
That's massive.
And also keep the car in boost without having to do flat foot shifting. You know,
Yes.
every
And
shift is a flat foot shift with a sequential.
it's you also like, let's say what happened at Laguna, okay? Um Laguna, I money shifted into second looking for fourth, and
Yeah, it's
you know,
impossible.
that did the engine in. You're not going to do that in a sequential. Pulling back is pulling back. So,
Same thing
um,
going down.
yeah, going down is going down. I'm pretty I think this is going to help reliability, and it's going to give other cars, because Evos have the same option, Audis have the same option. There's other cars that can fill their
Yeah,
OEM gut with sequential stuff.
that's the nice thing is it's not a unique advantage that
Yeah.
Subarus would have.
It's just we're the psychopaths who are all going to jump on it now, because a lot of us are still hanging on the bleeding edge. I got to be real. If it's not for my street mod overall championship win, it's been nothing but Supras for the past, like, I don't know, what are we, 5 years?
Yep.
And that's what they're trying to break up to, and a lot of that is hats off to Jackie Ding for coming up with an extraordinarily good recipe for winning this class. And others have managed to follow something similar and do a lot of damage in it. But it's there's at a certain point, nobody wants to see just a super class. That's kind of lame for competition, and it's also making other people question if they even want to try it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So no, I think it's good. I think it's good for overall. I think it's going to make a good show. And I think it's going to be sweet just because, videos, everybody loves watching sequential videos. Tell me you don't love going out onto YouTube and watching somebody just bang gears, or you see a
Oh yeah.
video come up on YouTube or on Facebook, like, hey, check out this guy. He's got a sequential, this, that, and the other thing, time attack car. They watch it just because
Man,
ripping gears is awesome.
ever since I drove around, the FT86 Speed Factory car that day at where were we?
Yeah.
Where was that? You were there.
Mm,
The track, damn it. It's north of Joliet. No, I'm sorry. God damn it, I can't think. Black Hawk Farms.
okay, Black Hawk Farms. Yep. Okay.
I retuned that car for them, and I delivered it to Black Hawk Farms, and I drove it around with a sequential in it.
Yeah.
Driving a sequential car on track changes your life.
Just ruined you, huh?
In that moment, I was like, I either need to buy this damn car or get this transmission in my Subaru someday. I need a good reason to put this in my Subaru or have this or whatever. And hey, we're here finally.
Yep.
I think here's my concern, and I hope this doesn't, I hope it's not an issue. Is I'm really concerned that we were to do this, and someone gets really hung up on the terminology where it says that the gears, like replacing the gears is okay, but replacing the other things
Well,
are not okay.
that is when they added that wording. That's why that kills that. That's what Adam wanted to prevent.
Yeah, so that clarifies that aftermarket sequential gearboxes that replace everything are prohibited. I just wish they had a little bit more wording that you can replace everything else inside there except for the case. It just says gear right now.
New wording basically just said sequential transmissions. I'd actually have to pull it up, but sequential transmissions that replace the internals in an OEM gearbox are legal. Like,
now
so
they don't say the shifting mechanism has to stay the
No.
same. They don't say it has to stay.
I have a feeling that's going to change, and I that could go either way right now. But long story short, they opened that up for track mod, because if they had wording specifically stating if you had a sequential, you still had to shift. You still had to use a lever to shift.
Yeah, right now we don't have any wording. We can put paddles in according to the existing rules.
So I had a conversation with Adam, and I'm like, yo, you got to change that. And they did change it for track mod. Track mod now has wording specifically saying you can do whatever the hell you want. That doesn't necessarily mean we can't do whatever the hell we want. It just means they added wording to track mod.
They specified in track mod you got to shift it with a lever.
No, it's gone now. Like
Oh,
that, yeah, they got rid of that essentially. So it kind of opened us up to maybe even being able to use the levers now. Or
so
the
you're saying the current 20, if I look at the 25 rules right now, track mod can use paddles now?
track mod just changed, and that was something that Chris Borsman, a bunch of them were asking about.
Oh,
And yeah, it just like literally like last night changed.
oh, okay.
So, I need everybody to understand we're also putting asterisks next to all of these conversations. If you are planning on building something yourself, check the rules before you do it. Because we're in crazy season right now, and this is all still a little squishy.
No,
We're not.
I'm looking at it, Dewey, right now. And here's how it reads for track mod for the 2025 provisional. It says sequential gearboxes are approved, but must be manually actuated by a transmission linked lever in the general location of the original shifter.
They supposedly
Now,
Adam told me they changed it. I wonder if they got rid of it again.
here's some new red text. I read this. This is weird. I'll continue reading and I'll put it in the chat here. I'll
Yeah,
copy,
yeah.
and paste into the chat. And then I will put the red text
Just stick it in the chat.
here. I'm going to
Okay.
put the red text in parentheses so it's clear about what they added. But essentially they said, or if the vehicle never came with OEM DSG PDK automatic paddle shifting can be utilized with aftermarket transmissions.
Well, long story short, they said it has to be manually actuated or it doesn't have to be manually actuated. All they really had to do is just remove that rule.
Yeah, that contradicts itself. It's like it has to be in the, or if it never had paddles, guess what? You can add paddles.
That's what I'm saying. Just like I love you guys, and I got a feeling that they, Adam and they don't listen to this.
This is very dumbly written where it, in my opinion, where it contradicts itself.
They just delete the whole damn thing. But long story short, they're trying to do something to allow them to do it. And I have a feeling we're going to get that wording. The original wording is probably going to land in our class. So be prepared.
So track mod gets paddle shifting. We get sequentials with manual lever shifting.
Yes. And I got to be real. I'm okay with that.
I love it. No, that's where this is going. I wouldn't expect to get paddles year one of like really letting sequentials in. I would not expect that.
Personally, I don't. I don't unless the car came with it. I don't think it should have paddles because
Josh's point. No, paddles are not connected to the linkage. They are 100% a switch that runs to a pneumatic arm that does the shifting.
Yeah, so what Josh asked was paddles are manually actuated and vaguely near the center of the car. They're not manually actuated though. That is a button. Like it might be a paddle, but it's still just connecting a button and forcing something else to make that shift, whether it be pneumatic or whatever.
It's always pneumatic from my experience, but yes. But anyway, at least reaching over with your right hand and giving a quick yank is still plenty. Not having to clutch all of it. It's phenomenal.
There's time with that of taking your hand off the wheel to go grab that. And I think that more than makes up the difference of, the guys who have cars that came with it, let's say an 8HP, who maybe that shifts a hair slower than the sequential, but they don't have to remove their hand.
Yep. Not to mention we can customize gear ratios and really optimize our power bands.
They can do that too, especially the rear wheel drive cars. They can just throw a different final drive in.
Well, no, I'm saying, but I'm saying this is a big benefit to us. I'm just saying to be able to change our gear ratios.
Yeah, we have it depending on what sequential we want to buy. Yeah. I mean, we're looking at a few different options right now, and one of the companies has like 7 different options. You know what I mean? I would like to see, and I don't think it's going to happen, us set up some form of partnership with some certain people and, maybe have something that everybody can buy. We'll see what that looks like down the road. But sequentials, the reality of it is, are not a super high seller, and they're a very motorsports niche product. And honestly, they take a pretty decent amount of upkeep. Okay. They take a decent amount of upkeep at a minimum once a season. The thing's coming out, and we're going to have to look it over. That is what it is. But guys have done one lap of America with sequentials. It's not that they can't be street driven cars. They absolutely can be. So I personally, I think their wording for this makes sense for what the class should be. It's street tires. It is a modified street-esque car. You know what I mean? I will, even though it's kind of dangerous due to the cage and everything, I would still throw Megan in it. We'd go get ice cream. I'm gonna drive the thing down the street. It's stupid, but I'm gonna do it.
Yep. Screw those dogs. You'll buy new ones.
Nah, that's what the clutch is for, and
I'm
we'll
kidding. I
up
know.
gears fast, and it's gonna be a learning curve for anybody who does it. Okay, unless you come into it having a bunch of sequential knowledge, there's going to be a learning curve to it.
They're very, very, very harsh. I had that Ford RS 200 back on the dyno the other day on
Yeah,
E85, and that thing's a dog box. And even with clutching, you have to get it perfect, or it's rough.
you have to be very, very deliberate in your
Very
shift.
deliberate, high
And
RPMs, time everything. It is. Yeah, it's an experience.
you don't drive the thing slowly. Like,
No, no, there's no just granny shifting or putting around. It all has to be deliberate.
yep. But I mean, when you are hauling ass, it's going to be a thing of beauty.
Yep.
And I'm beyond excited about it. I'm thinking of a track like Laguna, where the nasty thing happened. There's some like mid corner shifts that you really needed to have, and there's just no way you're going to be able to do it accurately. Or I can being able to use my left foot to alter the attitude of the car. Again, going back to, let's talk about Laguna. There's no way I could go left foot brake through that carousel area. Um, there's no way I could do that because I have to be ready to shift at like right when I was coming out of that. And it just didn't make sense. You couldn't short shift it because you just bog the whole way through it. So like just being able to bang that gear and then having my left foot open is being able to use that to change the attitude of the car is gonna be crazy. That would have been worth a lot of time for me. I bet you that little spot right there would have been a minimum of a half second. And maybe the way that links into the corner after it might have been a full second altogether. You know what I mean?
It'll add up. That's one of the spots where these Supras have advantages. They never, first of all, they never have to take two hands off the wheel.
At all.
And also they don't ever miss an upshift or a downshift. It never misses. It's perfectly consistent. They can just drive the car. And this allows us to be a little bit closer to that.
I can't think of how many awesome laps I have thrown away because of a misshift.
All the damn time. You're the worst shifter I've ever met in my life.
The worst. It sucks so bad.
You try
Um,
to shoot that thing like it is a sequential and it's not ready. It's like, no, sir.
dude, I have done nothing but fight having synchros in my transmission.
How many times in grid life history have you shifted into the 3.5?
Yep. I mean, think about all the times
IAG had to make a part for you.
the IAG literally made a part because I was fighting this problem. Yeah,
Yeah.
the shift finger exists because of Thurf gear.
Yes. So this is going to be immense for you. It's going to save downtime. It's going to save weekends. It's going to save catching on fire. Like honestly, the benefit is just through the roof.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely massive. So I'm stoked about it. I hope my hope is this kind of kicks off a little bit of a revolution. Like stuff is not slowed down. There's some interesting trends I saw in what was being purchased this year for the Black Friday sale, and I can tell you the D-Stroker is very popular.
I
Um,
know.
a lot of people really are excited about what they can do with that. I'm very excited. Black Friday's a little crazy. And the type of buyer is a little different than like tax time where people are like, I'm building, you get a lot of Black Friday people who are holding out and they're trying to repair their car. Like it shit over the summer and they're like, I'm gonna wait till Black Friday. And I'm gonna nail a deal on a basic IAG 550 block or something. So we sell a lot of those. But like crazy dudes, they're I'm already talking to a bunch of them. They come out of the woodwork in the middle of February, and I'm very interested to see the numbers of D-strokers versus the non D-stroked engines. So yeah, um, that I think the track car revolution is finally starting to take off. I'm especially, man, I think we're in kind of a second heyday of time attack in the US. I really do. It looks a lot different than last time time attack exploded,
Yep.
but I think it's starting to really pop off. It was really telling on how many time attack cars you actually saw around PRI too. You saw as many or more time attack cars than you saw GT3 or hell, there's a decent amount of drag cars, but like we're starting to catch up. That's
Yep.
wild.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So it's a cool time to be in time attack. There's a lot of really cool people and it's very grassroots driven. Oh, one more thing that happened, since we're talking about it. Grid Life is going back to Road Atlanta. I thought that would never happen. I can count on how many third eyes I have on my head, how of the possibility of that ever happening again. Like that definitely was not on my bingo card. Um they took over the global time attack slot, but so either way, Grid Life's going back to Road Atlanta, so that probably means we're going to Road Atlanta. So I'm pretty stoked about that. I haven't visited that track in a very long time.
Well,
Last time I
I'm
was
very
there,
excited.
I
Oh,
ran
I
all.
want to get back there for sure.
Dude, you got to. Even if you're just coming to hang, it's gonna be a
I
riot.
know I need to drive it for sure.
Oh my god, that track scares the shit out of me. I don't
Me
think
too. I know,
there's
me
not
too.
another track on the schedule that scares me quite like that. Like I've Road America scares the shit out of me, but Road Atlanta is a different animal. The minimum speeds are so nuts through 12 and 1. It's just crazy. Um, so yeah, I'm that's gonna be rowdy. And every single round is going to be live cast this year, which is really cool. So you guys, there was like Mid Ohio wasn't live cast last year, so a lot of you guys didn't.
Well,
I
right.
know there are people watching
Every
it.
weekend, all the events now are competition only. There is no HPDE, so they can just set up a whole weekend of broadcasting, and there's always something to be watching, no matter which group it is.
Yep. I am a little sad that HPD is kind of going away because it gave guys like we got Jake in the crowd right now. He's a really good example of somebody who's making their way through HPD to try to get into time attack. And they're gonna have to figure that path out. And I
I
think they're
know.
working on it, but it that does kind of hurt because I mean you and I are perfect examples of that. We came through the Grid Life HPD program to do time attack.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
you know,
hopefully. I mean, they said they're going to work with other groups. There are a lot of other great groups to get out there and get track experience time, with, and then when you're ready, jump in with Grid Life,
what I'd like to see is Grid Life promote other people's HPD events using their platform. Like, hey, there's an HPD going on here. There's an like use the Grid Life platform to promote that. And I think
Get those guys' rosters filled up and get these guys out and get some experience. That's good for everybody.
I think that's actually one of the things that's been holding back the track community in general is it's very hard for people to find something local for them to go to. They don't even know where to start. And Grid Life could help with that immensely.
Mhm.
Like, have these people just register with Grid Life. Hey, we're running an HPD. And Grid Life it would behoove Grid Life to, for absolutely no cost whatsoever, use their platform to go, hey guys, did you know there's an HPD going on in, Guadalajara, New Mexico? And I think that would be huge. I really
Yep.
do. So use that platform because for grassroots motorsports in the United States right now, the biggest thing going by an absolute long shot is Grid Life. So let them know. Yeah. I think that's a show, dude. I think we did a thing.
Yeah.
You took a little bit of time out to come hang out with us and Phil Warranty's cold seat there. And next week, I'm really stoked about the ABCS chat. We're both gonna kind of do our due diligence and put together something kind of nice. But really, I feel like that's a very wildly misunderstood system. And I think a lot of people need to learn about that. And there's no better person to bring on than your punk ass. So
Yeah, we'll talk about it for sure. It'll be fun.
so other than that, yeah, I think that's about it. It's been real. It's been fun. It's been real fun, and we will see you guys next week. Thanks.